my back. What we have here is a matter of humiliation and human kindness. Dumbbells. You leave me no other choice. You're welcome.
You're slowing down. Come on, cowboy. Bring it.
Corey, welcome back to the program. Looks like you're built for performance here. Good, a Mercedes AMG shirt there, bro.
F1 race, Benny. I was at the F1 race this weekend in Vegas. It was amazing.
What's up, man? That's awesome. Okay, so yeah, all right. You were in Vegas. Vegas was the location of a very strange and unexplained shooting that happened in Trump's first term. And now there's a strange and unexplained shooting that happened with President Trump in 2024 with Thomas Crooks. Now, I know that DHS has some major involvement in that. Obviously, DHS is over Secret Service and is over Homeland Security, investigations, and so on. There were a lot of people who were commenting based on Tucker's reporting on Thomas Crooks and some of his messages online that maybe the federal government is withholding information from us on Thomas Crooks, who he was communicating with, and so on. Since there's no trial going on and he's dead, then it begs the question, why haven't we got all the information on Thomas Crooks? Like, just everything, even if it is like his creepy porn habits or the fact that he, was into furry stuff or used pronouns. Like, why not get that from the federal government, instead of, people leaking to independent sources?
Well, Benny, let me say, I have had the chance not to review the documents directly, but I have spoken to Director Sean Curran at the Secret Service, who turned over all of the information and the investigation to the FBI. And I've spoken to Kash Patel about this as well, because I think the American people deserve transparency, whether it's the pipe bomber that you talked about, who I guess, is busy with their dogs. And so, now the video of the dog has exonerated them, or this instance. Look, the American people deserve the opportunity to know what's going on, particularly when there's a potential assassination attempt either against the president of the United States or an actual assassination attempt against our friend Charlie Kirk, and a successful one. So what we deserve is the right to know the truth. I believe that there are continuing investigations as it relates to Charlie's individual. That is an ongoing investigation. Kash has said that, now being led by the state of Utah. As it relates specifically to the attempted assassination on Butler, Pennsylvania, I believe the president has been briefed fully by the FBI, by the Secret Service. He has agreed that the information they have provided him has been full and total and transparent, and he is very satisfied with the conclusion of this investigation, which is there was one individual involved. There was no outside entity involved, no outside authorization, no outside money, no outside world government involved. And so the president believes that, and if he believes it, it is good enough for me.
Yep. So, I mean, totally. And, I'm not necessarily alleging that, I guess what I'm getting at is, like, here's a great photo. This is Thomas Crooks minutes before he shoots my president in the head, kills members of our community, the America First MAGA movement. Here he is on the phone. I mean, he's on the phone with someone, or he's looking at something. And it seems like in order to get all of the information out to the American people, it'd be good to, like, what the hell was he searching for here? Why did he use they, them pronouns? Who was he in communication with? Where did he learn how to make these bombs and how to shoot? He was training at a rifle range that was also being used by Homeland Security police, right? For training. Like, was there ever any, crossover there, right? Like, was there ever any, did he get any ideas? That's the kind of stuff, like a drug test, for instance. Like, was he on anything? Was he on any medications? Was he on any type of something that would fry his brain? If he's using they, them pronouns, was he on hormone blockers? Kind of thing. Like, that's, I guess, what I'm asking for, right?
Yeah, but here's what happens, and I understand it, right? An assailant is murdered, killed because the good guys shot him immediately. And look, there was a lot of questions. Don't forget when the military went in and killed Osama bin Laden, right? They went in and they immediately disposed of the body. When things like that happen, it causes the American people to say, why? Why don't we have information? How come we don't know what actually transpired? I will tell you, I have complete confidence in FBI under Kash Patel's leadership, in Sean Curran's leadership at the U.S. Secret Service. Look, would we have rather had the opportunity, in my opinion, to put this individual on trial for the attempted assassination of President Trump, to get all the information of who he talked to, what he did, and what his motivations were? Of course, although there is a part of me, Benny, that says swift justice, an eye for an eye, is just a better justice in this particular case. So I think what we're going to see in the assassination attempt of the assassination of Charlie Kirk is we're going to see an individual being tried who probably is never going to take the stand, who's never going to testify. And I think you'll see a level of frustration that we know this individual did it. There's no question in my mind that he killed Charlie. The question is, why did he do it? And I don't know if we'll ever get those answers.
Right. I guess I just like, I guess in a world where there's been a broken down trust. And I say this on the show all the time, Corey, you guys didn't break the machine. You know what I mean? Like, it was broken for generations before, for 4, 5, 10 administrations that have slowly eroded the trust in American institutions. And I know that this is something very personal to the president, obviously, where it comes to like him getting hit in the head with a bullet. And so I can't even fathom, you know, that this is President Trump's decision, right? And he's making his own decision on this, probably with the release of this information. But it helps restore the trust when all of the evidence is just sort of presented to the American people. And I just want to encourage that, because that's how you actually restore trust on these issues, when you get, you know, when that's handed over. It happened with the JFK files, right? Like with the JFK files, and you guys had a part in that. It's just like, it's a pressure release valve, right? Where people are like, oh, thanks, you know? And it also gives sort of the online internet sleuths something to do, right? Instead of standing around being frustrated. So,
well, you're right. And listen, when the government hides things, let me just point you to the fake Russia collusion narrative, right?
Thank you.
Comey, Clapper, and Brennan. These guys literally made this up whole cloth with the advice and consent of the former president of the United States, Barack Obama. We know that meeting took place in the Oval Office. We know that Hillary Clinton was involved in this. They made the whole thing up, and they hid it from the American people. And every time an outlet asked them a question, they made us sound like we were stupid, like we didn't have the right to even question them, only to find out that the whole thing was made up. I knew it was made up. I was there every single day. But when you question the leadership of some of these law enforcement agencies, the Comeys, the Clappers, the Brennans, they are just so incensed that you would ever question their credibility. They don't want to talk about the fake letter that was signed as it related to the Hunter Biden laptop that we know was completely made up. They don't want to talk about the fake Russia collusion narrative. And that's why there is a massive distrust in some of these government agencies, because they have lied to us time and time and time again and thought that they were above the law. And finally, only now, under this administration, are some of those people being held accountable, but it's not enough.
Corey, I swear I don't have Kara book you just on pipe bomber days. I swear I don't. Okay,
it's true.
I know it's a total coincidence, but you have a decades long law enforcement pedigree. This has been extremely frustrating to us and our audience. We just played the Kash Patel, the brand new clip from Kash Patel. It's only a few hours old, of him saying, listen, we have had major breakthroughs in the last few days on this, and you're going to be hearing from us very soon. You're going to be seeing filings very soon. There's going to be public announcements very soon on this. Can you give us any information on that? Do you have any idea where this investigation actually looks like? Is the chief insult to us as viewers and as members of this movement, Corey, is that they were able to find every grandmother who even waved an American flag that day. And they were able to let the single terrorist, somebody that I'm sure you and I both agree is a literal terrorist, walk free. And that's very frustrating.
Well, it goes to show you, when you have a government that has an objective, which is to go after every person who is anywhere near the Capitol within 20 miles, whether they were supporting their own free speech or deciding to do something else. The federal government used every resource available to go after every grandmother, every grandfather, every veteran, every citizen who was out there saying, hey, you used your bank card 14 miles away. We're going to come and question you. And they used every resource available. But now what we've seen in Washington, D.C. is literally a person in the nation's capital, just steps from the Capitol itself, placing pipe bombs and we don't have that person brought to justice in a city which is riddled with cameras and oversight and supposed to be one of the safest cities in America. And so, look, I do think we're going to find a resolution to this. And it's amazing to me that, some video footage was released by this agent who was playing with their dogs. And they go, well, okay, I guess I'd exonerate you, as if AI has never been used before to manipulate something that maybe we've seen. So listen, I think Cash and the FBI have to run down every single lead. I hope they come back to us very quickly, because this is a very, very serious threat that a person with a hoodie goes and places a pipe bomb and then sees what seems to be, Benny, a police car drive by and just kind of waves nonchalantly to them like they know who it is. And look, I'm not making any assertions here or not, but look, if I'm out doing bad things and I see a police car go by, the last thing I'm trying to do is draw attention to myself, would be my, mentality, my methodology. So I would try to be low key if I was doing that. Not that I would, but that's what I would do. This person seems to be relishing in the fact that a police car is going by and they're drawing attention to themselves. Very, very odd.
They're saying that the pipe bombs with this 60-second timer on them were set to explode right around when the march began the next day at 1 p.m. I remember January 6th very plainly. I was sitting in the front row at Trump's speech. First off, that's impossible. How can you set a 60-second timer to go off 18 hours later? But most importantly, why would a MAGA bomber be bombing the MAGA parade? This was exactly the time when tons of MAGA supporters were supposed to be right in the circumference of the Capitol. So that makes no sense. They're trying to bomb their own movement? What the hell is that?
And Benny, that's a level of sophistication that the average person would not have, okay? Somebody is going to make a pipe bomb. Look, they usually, without speaking, in a classified format, they're usually relatively rudimentary, okay? Yeah. Someone goes online, Googles the information, finds out the basic of it, and then they go and build it on their own. From what they're now telling us is this was a very sophisticated pipe bomb. This person could not only elude detection of every camera in Washington, D.C., place this, leave no DNA evidence anywhere, but then set this thing for 12 or 18 hours later with precision. And we're only fortunate enough that we caught it before it ever went off. So listen, this is either a person who's incredibly sophisticated or somebody isn't telling us the truth on what's really going on here.
Yeah. Well, I join you, Corey, in praying for total and complete transparency on this, on Thomas Crooks, on Epstein. I think that's the obvious demands of the American people. It's also a historic opportunity to restore trust, frankly, that's been eroded. And I try and be as fair as possible. You guys own the car now. You guys have the keys, but this trust has been destroyed over my entire life. I'm 39 years old. My entire life, this stuff has been atomized by a bunch of degenerates and a bunch of idiots who've been in these positions and lied to the American people. And so it's just it'd be really incredible to see just moments of extreme transparency here on these major issues. Okay, so Heritage Foundation. I wanted to ask you about this. So this dude at the Heritage Foundation comes forward. His name's Mike Howell, and he says that the Trump administration has fallen short of its promise for mass deportation. And he notes that there has not been any purposeful, large-scale workplace raids on farms, restaurants, hotels in order to appease the interest of employers. And then he says that DHS has had intentional gaps in their enforcement and undisclosed deportation data. And so he says there needs to be a major increase in deportation operations. Republicans risk betraying their constituents. I wanted to get your response to this, obviously, as this is something that you're deeply involved in.
Yeah, Benny, I don't know who this no-name slob is, but he obviously has no understanding of what is going on every single day. Okay, I don't know who this guy is. He's completely irrelevant. But what I will tell you is that under the president's administration, Donald Trump's administration, 2 million people have already self-deported, and over 500,000 individuals who are in this country illegally have been arrested, detained, and deported. And Benny, listen, there's a story out today I just want to touch on. It says that a relative to Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary to the president of the United States, was detained by ICE and is now going through a deportation process. Because I will tell you, we offer no quarter to anybody who is in this country illegally. It doesn't matter who you are related to. It doesn't matter who you are friends with. If you are in this country illegally, and you have a criminal record, we will find you, we will apprehend you, and we will deport you, period, end of conversation. So whoever this genius is over at the Heritage Foundation doesn't know what we're doing, doesn't know that ICE is on path by the end of December, so in less than 30 days, to have 10,000 new officers on duty every day. We are on mission. We are on point. If you don't think what we're doing makes the community safer, look at Los Angeles, look at Chicago, look at Charlotte, look at the places where we have done large-scale operations. And you have to also remember this. The attacks on our ICE officers and CBP officers, the threats and violence against them is up over 1,000% over this time last year. Not because they're sitting back on their laurels doing nothing. It's because they're out in the communities every day. The Latin Kings, a vicious, brutal gang, has put bounties on the heads of our law enforcement agents. So whoever this genius is that's making these false accusations, I'd love to have him come and do a ride along and see what it's really like to actually put your life on the line as opposed to sit behind a desk and be another keyboard warrior.
I've done a number of those, and it's been eye-opening. In fact, I've really appreciated the opportunity to do that because, well, you can't really experience. It's kind of like going to a war zone. Frankly, you can't really experience it unless you've seen it up close. And so I've been on these raids, and it's why ICE agents are constantly in my prayers. And I watched Kristi Noem actually pray for ICE agents there in Portland, and they needed it. I wanted to put up
in Chicago. I just want to remind the viewers. You were
Please.
with us in Chicago when they went out, and Chief Bavino went into that crowd. And if you remember, he got hurt that day, right? He was on the ground because he was leading his men and women there at the Chicago ICE detention facility. So this is not for the weak of heart. It's not for the faint of heart. These men and women are on the front lines every single day trying to make our community safer. So, it's not an easy job. And so thank a cop if you ever get the chance.
That's exactly right. Here we go. The foreign-born population has decreased dramatically. We see that in the employment numbers, and then here in the Center for Immigration Studies by 2.2 million. First time we've seen a decrease like ever. And this is obviously in part because of the enforcement. So, okay. Forgive me, Corey. Got a bunch of little kids, and they are all sick this time of year. So I'm glad we do the show remotely, frankly. What about the people who say there's not enough mass deportation? Okay, so there's not enough mass deportation. We want more mass deportations. And this is clearly something that is complicated and that has been blocked by a lot of judges. Nobody's saying that it's easy, but can you vision cast for us where, Corey, is this headed, right? Like, so everyone saw how you solved traffic in LA and in Charlotte. That's a miracle. Well done. Where is it headed? Where is this chart going? Where are the deportation charts going? You just said, did you say 10,000 new ICE agents by December?
That's right. So
okay.
let me tell you where we are, Benny. First and foremost, what people don't remember is we had the worst porous border under the previous administration that this country has ever seen. And in 3 months, that border is sealed. And over the last 6 months, we have zero, and I mean zero individuals coming into this country because we have operational control of the border. So that's a massive difference. So now, as we've controlled our borders, we've sealed off our borders, we have the opportunity to go and do this enforcement on the interior of our country. And we're using CBP and ICE to do that. And we're targeting the worst of the worst, the pedophiles, the rapists, the gang members, the MS-13, Tren de Araguas, etc. And they know we're coming for them. So they're leaving voluntarily because we've told everybody, if we find you and we deport you, you will never come back. But we will not let up. I think that by the end of this first year in office, by January 20th of 2026, we will see north of 3 million total people. That's the self-deportations and the ones that we have deported leave this country. For the first time in American history, we have an outbound migration because people understand what's happening. And we have the top cover from the President of the United States to say to the men and women on the front lines, you can go do your job. So you will see that. Now, what we hear, Benny, all the time, hey, this guy's been working with me for 15 years, 20 years. We can't find American workers. I say, when you have taken jobs away from the American people to subsidize them for the people who are in this country illegally, let me propose something to you, Mr. Business Owner. Why don't you put your personal liability up for that individual who's in the country illegally? Which means if they commit a crime, you're responsible. They commit a felony, you're responsible. They commit something, you're responsible. You put your financial resources up if you're so confident that this is the right person. And to an individual, to a business owner, I have never had one tell me that they're willing to put up their home or their family savings or their livelihood to go and support an illegal who they say is imperative for their success of their business. So go hire Americans. We have the greatest workforce here in this country that the world has ever seen. But when you're subsidizing and allowing individuals to work for your company at a cheaper rate because you don't want to pay your fair share, shame on you.
Yes. Final question on this, and thank you for your generous time, Corey. What can be done about employers? So I'm reading this, I'm reading this Heritage Foundation fellow or whatever go after DHS, and what he's talking about is he's talking about these large scale businesses that hire hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of criminal aliens. What the hell is that, Corey? Certainly there can be a way through Department of Labor. Certainly there are laws on the books that says you can't do that. But am I that naive? Like, how is this even allowed to happen?
You're spot on.
The construction sites in Charlotte. Sorry to interrupt. But the construction sites in Charlotte all being empty. Like, my God, like all of the students are illegals. All the students are illegal aliens. All the construction workers in Charlotte are illegal aliens. All the drivers in Charlotte are illegal aliens. What the hell is going on, Corey?
You're spot on, because for years, decades even, there's never been an enforcement mechanism for these businesses. So if they can pay someone under the minimum wage and not get caught with it, they were willing to take the chance. This is the first time in a generation, if not our lifetime, that there's actually a president willing to enforce those laws. So what we do all the time as a department is we go to these companies and say, we want a list of every I-9 that you have for the people who work for you. And most of the time, if not always, they turn them over voluntarily, because it gives us the opportunity to then verify that the people who are working there are either legal or illegal. And if they're illegal, we tell these business owners, we're going to come back. I'm going to do a workforce enforcement raid. I'm going to take all these people out, or you can turn them over. It's completely up to you. And you wouldn't believe it. You wouldn't believe how many business owners are saying, please don't raid my business. Here are the people who've been working for me illegally. Let me give you the addresses. And not just that, what we're seeing, Benny, across the board is through a number of technologies that we have, the abuse as it relates to marriage fraud and fraud for services that these individuals are permeating. So we're seeing about 35% of the illegal aliens in this country are also defrauding the government for some type of service, whether it's welfare or Social Security or something else. So we finally have a holistic of government approach that allows the USCIS to work with CBP, that works with ICE, that works with everybody across the board to go out and prevent this from happening. And our country is being fundamentally transformed for the better and will be even better going forward.
I mean, you love to see it. It seems like it's pretty obvious. If you can't get work, the whole purpose of this is economic migration, and then to send remittances home to their home country to steal money, to take money out of America and send it back to Guatemala or Honduras or wherever, Somalia. If you can't do that, then the problem's going to solve itself eventually. And so it seems like employment crackdown is like the obvious way to do this. It's a lot easier than rounding people up in Walmart parking lots. But what do I know? You know,
when we hit LA, the traffic went down about 25% because the illegals were afraid to come out. Okay. There is nowhere we will not go to keep the American people safe. So if that's what it takes to reduce the traffic, which is to make sure ICE is on every corner, or we've got enforcement happening all over the place, we will continue to do that because the American people deserve it and they voted for it.
What about Minneapolis? So here's this shocking report. Here's a shocking report about the Somalis. I'm just going to pop it up on screen and let you respond to it. But like, it's talking about how billions of dollars of fraud has gone to pay for Muslim terrorists in Somalia. And this is clearly like they straight up are egregious in their defrauding of the system and using the autism reports and federal funds and local funds, and they send it back in bags of cash to go fund Muslim terrorism in Somalia. What's going to happen in Minneapolis?
Well, Benny, if you let me not get out in front of what our plan is, I would appreciate that. But I will tell you this: you are not the first to raise this issue. You will not be the last to raise this issue. But I think in the coming days and weeks, you will see a dramatic change in posture in that community, because this is clearly a major story that requires intervention to fix the problem. And so I don't want to get too far in front of this thing, but if you're doing something illegally and you're in that community or you're in that state, I would recommend you self-deport. Go to the CBP home app and get the hell out of the country.
Really quickly, since we're on the topic, I wasn't planning on asking about this, but in the first administration, I had people that worked at DHS I was very close with, and they since moved on to consulting and whatever. But they said that there is bona fide proof that Ilhan Omar committed fraud and multiple layers of fraud. And independent reporting from the Daily Mail, the Guardian, and others have confirmed this, that Ilhan Omar was in fraudulent marriages and that she was trying to do end around immigration policies and so on. Anyway, it's practically a meme at this point. The president posts about it quite often. Is DHS ever going to like do a proper investigation into this, or should we ever expect anything like Ilhan Omar to ever have to answer to these allegations? And will they ever become charges? You know, like.
So again, I don't want to comment on a potential investigation because it'll probably put me in the jackpot and I get in enough trouble on my own when I'm on your show. Just think of Bad Bunny. Okay. So what I say is we have to let the process play out a little bit, right? I mean, look, I made the Bad Bunny story, Benny, on your show, and all of a sudden, like the world exploded.
Sure did.
Right?
If you're not on TMZ after being on my show, then we haven't done it right. Yeah.
Well, that's true. And unfortunately, I think they know where I live. So I will say I don't want to get out in front of an investigation. I do know, as you have, again, articulated, there's been a lot of concern and consternation about some of the stories that have been out in the public. Some of them, as you know, are false and have to get run down, but some of them do have a sense of truth to them. And it's our obligation to go and investigate any potential crime and make sure that if you are committing crimes in this country, you're held accountable. Because as we've heard many times, when Donald Trump was being investigated, nobody is above the law. Not Adam Shifty Schiff, nobody. Not Ilhan Omar, nobody's above the law. So we're going to apply the law equally to everybody.
All right. So you're saying there's a chance. Okay, great. Well, so you're saying there's a chance. Dumb and Dumber. All right. Final thing, Corey. Final thing to get you to react to, because it's something near and dear to your heart that just broke while you were saying your last answer. Brand new, fresh off the presses, breaking news. Georgia prosecutor drops all charges against President Trump and others. I know many of your and my friends, mutual friends like Rudy Giuliani, in the 2020 election fraud case. So since you just mentioned it, it's perfect. No one is above the law. Your response to this, Corey?
My response was this was a weaponized abuse of power against people that they didn't like. Donald Trump, Rudy Giuliani, David Schaefer, the former chairman of the Republican Party in Georgia, so many others who were out just making inquiries. And so this is a slight validation, but just think of what these people had to go through. Some people were losing their law licenses. People lost their homes because of this. And what I want to see is justice. And I mean that, Benny, in the positive sense. You know, every time Donald Trump articulates maybe going after somebody, the left comes up and says, oh, you're weaponizing the Justice Department. Where were they 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, when everybody who was involved with questioning the outcome of the 2020 election was being indicted or brought in for a grand jury, having to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to defend themselves? So this is a positive step, but it's much too little, much too late, and it never should have happened in the first place. These people were just asking questions, and this was the weaponization of another district attorney like we saw in New York, and now we've seen in Georgia, finally getting resolved.
I mean, I guess it's nice to see the conclusion here that we all wanted, but you're exactly right. It's years too late. And the tens of millions of dollars that have been spent on these frauds, I mean, the process is the punishment. So anyway, we'd love to see that applied to Ilhan Omar. So just a thought, you know, happy to send you her marriage documents, Corey. I know your number. I'll text them to you after the show. Here's Corey Lewandowski, ladies and gentlemen. You should be up in Corey Lewandowski's mentions. He's just an absolute and total barn burner for the administration. He's a man who has worked with President Trump for the better part of decades at this point and is the architect of the MAGA movement. He has 600,000 subscribers here on X. You should be one of them. Thank you, Corey. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thanks, Benny. Happy Thanksgiving.